we rolled in our mobile bar. I served it on the side pool tab the check way that I gave it to Rob and Adam, the brewmasters, and I just stepped back and I was like, just going to watch them, not going to ask them. And then when Adam tried it, our brewmaster, his eyes lit, and I was like, safe.
Hello and welcome to We Are Beer People, a podcast all about the many different people who help us enjoy beer. I'm your host, Rob Cadwell, and I reckon if you're listening to this, then there's a good chance that you are one of the beer people too. You might be involved in the world of beer, you may want to find out more about the industry, or perhaps you simply enjoy drinking the stuff. So join me now as I have a chat with one of the beer people. Some places are intertwined with particular styles and serves of beer. Think of foamy pints of cask beer pulled up from a cool cellar with a hand pump in a British pub. And then travel to the west coast of the USA, and you're at the home of bright, crisp IPAs full of pine and citrus. And when it comes to lagers, these are differentiated from ales by the use of bottom-fermenting yeast, fermented at cool temperatures over a relatively longer time. And we might think of mainstream examples that are commonly seen at bars and in supermarkets. But lagers have a history that goes back to medieval times, when beers were stored or lagered in caves for months and months, with yeast that happily worked at these temperatures. And today we're talking with Radim Zvanovec, Global Brand Ambassador at Budweiser Budvar Brewery, which is the Czech state-owned brewery that's based in the town of České Budějovice, at a site where they've been brewing for hundreds of years. And the modern brewery has been incorporated since 1895, so it's not that modern, and it uses a celebrated approach to brewing beer that's rigorously followed to this day, using the same water from artesian wells, malts, hops, yeast and thyme. So let's find out a little bit about Radim and his journey into beer, what it's like being a global brand ambassador, and then the wonderful world of lager. Good morning, Radim.
Good morning, Rob.
Thank you very much for joining us on We Are Beer People today. A very big welcome. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. It's Wednesday. Yes, it's a Wednesday. So halfway through the week.
Excellent. We're nearly there then. Could you tell us, just to begin with, who you are and what it is you do?
So my name is Radim Zvanovec, and I work as a global brand ambassador for Budweiser Budvar, the national brewery of Czech Republic.
Fantastic. And we're recording this online today. So for the benefit of our listeners who can just hear what we're doing, could you describe a little bit about where you are today, where you're recording from, and maybe what you can see?
Absolutely. So I'm based in Bristol. I wish it was sunny. It's a little bit dark. It was raining overnight, so
a bit of everything there.
Yeah, British weather. And I'm just looking at the street full of cars, honestly. I'm wondering if anyone's working today because there's so many cars.
That's it. It seems to be Tuesdays, the peak day where people get on the roads and travel to places, don't they? And then otherwise it's a lot of work from home.
I always expected like Thursday to be the day that people actually going to stay at home, and because of the Friday, well, it doesn't appear.
Very interesting. And how did you begin? You're obviously a brand ambassador at the moment, but I'm guessing you didn't start there. So where did your beer journey begin?
Actually, it started right there. So I was working in hospitality for many years, and basically, like everyone in hospitality, wants to get out of hospitality, or at least it was that pre-pandemic feeling. I was studying hospitality management up in Scotland, and then the pandemic hit. At the same time, I was doing 1 or 2 years home brewing. I really got into my beers. So I think one of the biggest benefits of pandemic was that I had the time to brew and to study. So I did my general certificate in brewing in IBD. And then Budvar did some homebrew competition, and I was just like, let's sign up for that because I come from actual Budweiser city. That's a fact that people think it's just a marketing story, but actually I was born like 20 minutes away from the brewery. So when they launched this competition, I signed up for that. I brewed Czech style lager, surprise, no decoction, just infusion, and then fermented in plastic buckets. A really punk-ish, but at the same time I was doing photography, so I did there were lots of things on socials and stuff like that. And Josh Nesfield, the brand manager at the time, found me, looked me up on the LinkedIn and said, hey, we're looking for someone who understands beer, who's authentic, who speaks English and understands the hospitality side as well. And at the time, Budvar went through rebranding. So that's been now 4 years. And then they were looking for someone to do like those instructional, educational videos that be using, to showcase how we do the pours and different style of pours and that sort of things. So yeah, so straight after pandemic, I flew to Czech Republic. I spent 3-4 days with the guys recording, and they were saying, hey, we're looking for a brand ambassador for the UK. We've never done this before. Would you be interested? And I was like, that's not a job, that's a mission, right? Being born there and representing Czech beer culture, I was like, yeah, sign me up. So yeah, then obviously there were lockdowns number 40, 50, whichever way in between. And then roughly like 8 months or 10 months later, I started to work for the subsidiary in the UK, where I spent 2 years. Basically, the role wasn't like, it was described on the paper, but the company never had an ambassador before. And so it was a lot of sort of ways of working, and I was on the marketing, then I was on trade, and it was sort of like profiling the way the role should be. And then last year I became a global brand ambassador. So no longer, I'm still based in the UK, but I travel around other markets and doing the same things that I started to do in the UK, and sharing the gospel of a Czech lager culture.
Fantastic. Yes. What a cool way to spend your time.
So it's been wonderful. I really like the job. And as I said, it's not a job, it's a mission.
Absolutely. What was it like though, growing up with Budvar on your doorstep?
Well, the staple thing, like one of those beers that you used to steal as a kid to your grandparents, Sunday lunches skimming of the foam of grandfather's beer, and that sort of thing. So yeah, it's, and it's not just Budvar, like there are many breweries in that area that, I'm being exposed to the beer since like quite young age. Like I always say it's so embedded in my DNA.
And so you're a global ambassador for Budvar. But what would an average week look like for you if you have such a thing?
Week for me, is totally different. So I can describe next week. So on Monday, I'm traveling to Vienna. We are working on a secret project that I can tell you anything about now. But I'm going there with the production team. Just sort of a couple of things to develop. Then I'm returning. I'm going to Paris to the Beer Planet, or Planet Beer. Mm-hmm. I can't pronounce it in French, so this should do. And I'll be doing some master classes of how to dispense the beer and how to pour the Czech pour and all these things around. And then a week after or 2 weeks after, I'm traveling to Las Vegas to judge the World Beer Cup. Wow. So so there is every week is totally different, and it really depends like how I schedule my time. What is needed from me, like even from the marketing side. I'm officially under the marketing, but I work with business development managers for different countries, with the on-trade guys, sometimes even off-trade guys. Week from week is totally different. So
that makes sense. So I guess you have a few things where they might request you to sort of help out on something they're working on, but equally you've got some things that you think actually this is going to help us grow the business. Exactly.
Yeah. So it really depends. Like we went to Rimini in Italy a 3 weeks ago, I think it was, and we were there with our distributor. So doing some master classes, but equally like talking about quality, how we retain the quality in the venues. And my background is brewing. I'm doing my postgraduate in Nottingham University in brewing science. So I'm sort of like binding the production side and the marketing and the sales in between of that, just focusing on growing business and also retaining the quality of the beer, because that's quite essential for us.
It's all built on that, isn't it? And I saw a few glimpses of your homebrew setup as well on your social media, and it's pretty impressive. I think it's fair to say it's invaded your house.
It has, yeah. So, homebrewing, I always love this journey of like starting with the plastic buckets, obviously, like, I burned my mortgage in the current setup. Yeah. But it's always fun, and always like for us in the brewery, we don't experiment as much. So for me, like the home brewing is the way. Like if there is some new product, like last year or past 2 years, it was the tiles. Everyone's talking about tiles, and it's a nice place to test that at home on a home brew batch. And downstairs, I've got a 2 looker taps where I'm dispensing it from. So it's basically like a home bar.
That's very good. Yeah. I think I've spoken to quite a few people on the podcast who are in different parts of the industry, but there's a disproportionate number of people who started with home brewing, and then that was their sort of way into doing it. It all went from there, wanting to find out more, wanting to get more involved in it. I think it's a great way to learn how to do it. I definitely started with a bucket, and now I've ended up in filling up a shed full of fridges and all that sort of stuff.
I think it's the best way, like for anyone working in the industry. Like if you work in sales, if you work in marketing, just to know the basics. Like brew a batch. And understand the processes just a little bit. You don't need to get into like biochemical reactions and things like that, but just to understand what it's about. Like we do it with our teams. We take them to the brewery, we explain them the process, and it sort of builds up the passion as well. Like if you more understand the product, it's easier for you to sell or to market. So I think like home brewing, it's a beautiful part of it, to understand the beer.
Definitely. I think all the component parts and that. Lots of people definitely start off being very fixated on the ingredients and the boil and the mash and all that sort of stuff. But you sort of work out over time that one of the most important parts is that fermentation bit and leaving things, just to condition nicely, but making sure that the yeast is totally happy throughout.
Yeah, we're just the yeast slaves.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We're here for the yeast. They're the boss.
Yeah.
And you also mentioned when you're sort of global ambassador going around to different markets. I'd be interested to know what the different markets or how they might regard Budvar and how they might use it differently, how they might approach, the pours, what their favourite kind of lagers might be out of the range, that sort of thing.
It's very interesting to see different markets and their approach to this. I can specifically mention, like I went to Israel just last September before it all kicked off there, and I must say I was so surprised about the quality there, because it's a hot country, and usually when you travel to hot countries, you expect the beer like not to be in top conditions. But I was quite surprised like how they sort of manage like having the kegs refrigerated, even if it's like a small fridge under the counter. Obviously, like one thing in common across all the markets is the glass care. Like we always tend to talk about this dispensing, but the glass care, it's really bad like everywhere. Just to understand the grease, like not washing the glasses with the crockery or coffee cups and all these things. Like that's most of the time, that's what I'm talking about. It's essential to understand the basics, and then you can start build up on the pour. Yeah, that goes, I think, for any sort of beer culture, just like Czech culture, where we're focusing on the pour, is just to understand the basics, the line cleaning, the glass, and then you can build up on that. So it's very like early days in most of the markets, just to understand the glass. So
yeah. And what would be to explain for people, what would be the issue then if you are sort of washing your glasses with other kind of crockery and stuff like that, or they weren't totally clean?
Yeah, so beer has 2 main enemies. First one is the grease. So if you got a greasy glass, it basically kills the foam, and the beer is exposed to oxygen, and it goes flat faster. It loses the flavors faster. So the foam on the top of a beer works as a sort of protective layer. So if you got a greasy glass, so if you wash your glasses with any other cups that have a residue of coffee, because coffee has oils in it, or if something that's with milk or tea with milk, so that fat actually kills the foam much faster and exposes the beer to oxygen. So it's not very the best way. And also the foam is the texture. It brings up the best out of beer and brings up the better drinking experience. So if always, I'm a massive advocate of hand washing glasses rather than using a glass washer. Because that physical action, that you can cover the surface of the glass with the sponge, clean sponge, that's just dedicated for glasses, using unscented detergent. Oh, I could talk hours for.
How does that go down when you arrive at a customer and you're saying, "Stop putting stuff in the dishwasher"?
Yeah, well, it's not about that. It's just about for them to understand like where are the sources of the oils.
Yeah,
and it's really hard. Like it's not like I go to the venue and start like preaching. It's like you have to stop doing this, because like that's a risk that they will say, okay, I'll take different beer supplier.
Yeah. You've got to work with them.
It needs to be in a sensitive way, like you're using also lots of empathy, and it's really hard because like UK is very specific like about that, because I can go to a pub and the operator's been running it for 40 years, and then the last thing he wants is like, or he or she wants is that there's some young lads try to tell me like how to do my job. So it's always like I always try to help the operators that want to evolve, they want to develop, have a better beer, have a better quality. And if they want, like we're here to help. If they don't want, I'm not going to be pushy or anything. So, yeah. But usually there's lots of sponges in my backpack and lots of like little samples of detergent, and be like, just try it. Just like, even pre-wash it before it goes anywhere. And then basic thing, salt test. I was so surprised how many people don't know salt test. Literally, just you take a glass, you rinse it in water, you take a regular table salt that every place must have. You put it inside and you try to coat 100% of the surface. And then when the salt doesn't adhere to, there are the places where if you pour the beer, it creates those bubbly, those nucleation points.
Yeah.
And we don't want those bubbles because that's sign of the grease, and that will kill the foam. So with like simple test, testing your glasses occasionally, and yeah, it's such a like geeky topic as well.
Really good. And then you have to rinse the glass afterwards so you don't end up with a gozer or something like that.
No, well,
different beer entirely at that point.
That would not be desirable.
So what would you say is the favourite thing about your role?
My favorite thing about my role, for me, it's always the networking. Meeting new people, meeting like-minded people, sharing the enthusiasm. I think this is a great thing about the entire like beer community. There's so many people that are interested in everything about beer, and it's events. You go to events and you meet the same people, and then you shoot the shit for hours and hours, and it's like time flies and you don't even realizing. Yeah, that's what I love about it. Other things, having access to like really good brewers, like in Budvar, like our guys are tip top. They explain everything, and they're all PhD guys, and and it's like the top geeks, and that thing, like having access to knowledge, I would say, yeah, that's quite essential. It's always great, be enthusiastic, but having access to knowledge, that's a great thing. And then travel, seeing other markets, seeing other beer cultures. That would be my like top 3 things, I would say.
Fantastic. Yeah, there's lots to go for there. And have there been any people that have been particularly instrumental in your beer career? You mentioned a few of like things like brewers and stuff, being able to draw upon them. Oh,
I'm always like, my attitude towards like this whole brewing industry is being a fanboy. So I always say like I was a fanboy of our brewmaster, Ambrosch, and then he came to London 3 years ago or something when I started, and I could show him around, and we like mutually like really clicked on well, and then we found like we both love cask beer, so we were like going around London drinking cask and eating pies and sausage rolls and all the classics. So yeah, so massive fan of him, and he's the man that encouraged me to actually like go my studies. I take my studies further. So absolutely like our brewmaster. But there are a lot of people around. There are a lot of people around. I love Garrett Oliver. I read all the books, and it's always like for me, like having access to those people or meeting those people. Like there was a Brewers Congress 2 years ago. I brought my book, and I was just like, "Hey, can you sign my book?" So like reading books. Like I'm always saying, like when I started like homebrewing and reading all the books from all those people, and then all of a sudden like you're meeting them, and you're talking about the same passion that you share, and there's a lot of influential people. I would have to make a long list.
Yeah. It's interesting you say about books, because I think with homebrewing, again, the first resource these days tends to be a forum or a YouTube video or something like that, which I think are great starters. But there's still so much that's still written to this day on different topics around brewing and home brewing.
I think the books are great, but also like throughout my journey, I actually find out like there are many books that are like counter each other, like what they say.
Yeah.
There's some discrepancy in things. But again, like, I always say that this is great for homebrewing as well. Like, if you read something and then two books collide or two authors collide about their stuff they write about, go and try it. Yeah, go and try and test it and see the results, because the books are great guidance. There are some really good written books. I'm just looking at what's the latest one that I really enjoyed? The Esslinger, the Handbook of Brewing, I think it is.
Oh, yeah.
It's massive. It's a Bible, yeah. But German written, and Germans are very like strict about their brewing. But then there is a Mrs. Basařová from Czech Republic who was the lecturer and professor at the what's it called, the Chemical Institute. It's the university in Prague where all the brewers went, and there's so many things that collide there, and they'll be like, well, you gotta try it. But yeah, having access to those books, reading books, channels, yeah, definitely, like, craft beer channel, Johnny and Brett, really, really nice sources. Like when you're starting off, they geek out things. That's amazing. The guys from Malt Miller, yeah, really good educational videos. They're trialing things. Then there are guys from Brewosophy. They are the ones that put in the test, like all the discrepancies. So yeah, the knowledge is there. It's just, be the sponge and soak everything in.
I think the whole thing is there's not one way to make beer, and there never has been, and there never will be. You'll often end up with beer. It's just how you can recreate that or add your mark to it. Or
absolutely. I always love, like, when you got a room full of brewers, and then the topic begins, and then brewers tend to be strong-headed and opinionated, and then it's just like there's so much energy in the room.
That's it. Yeah. I travelled up to Siever's BeerX conference, and on the train journey there and back, the conversation I was travelling up with brewers. I sort of quickly descended into yeast and water profiles and all that stuff. Doesn't happen normally, does it?
Yeah, that's the top nerd stuff.
What would you say to someone who might be looking to get into beer and maybe get into a role similar to yours? What advice would you give to them?
So getting into brewing industry, like changing the career, I would definitely say, education. People say, like, go and get a hands-on experience, but again, I did that when I tried to, like, it was before Budvar. I went to get some hands-on experience as a home brewer, go to a brewery, help with it, and no one wanted me. And it was just because I didn't have any formal education. So IBD, the Institute of Brewing and Distilling, doing the general certificate in brewing. That's a nice 6 months spent, learning about things, how it works, and do some home brewing, and just understand the process. Depends where you want to be. Like, do you want to be in production? Do you want to be in sales? It always helps. There are lots of short courses to understand things. So definitely, I would say, do some education. Second thing, be a fanboy. Fanboy or fangirl, go out, do the networking, speak to people, be enthusiastic, and just sponge the knowledge. Be the sponge and, like, soak all the knowledge from people, and and then don't be shy to ask, because in many times people are waiting for the right moment and the right time, and it doesn't come, and sometimes just drop the guard and just ask for things. I think that would be the approach, those 3 steps. It's
often a catch-22 though, isn't it, to do that? You've got to show you're interested, you've got to back it up with a bit of expertise, and I like your phrase, to be the sponge. It's always good. We need more of that. And I wonder, so if we go on to the Budvar section of the call, I'm now going to just open the alcohol-free Budvar. Okay. Here's a bit of sound for the microphone.
It's my favorite sound in the world, like that sound of beer being open. That's good. That could wake me from a dead.
And we've got a fairly decent pour on that, and a good sort of foam.
It's all right, yeah.
Could have gone for a harder pour. That's really nice, that, isn't it? Really good.
It works. It works like that Czech approach of, like, creating non-alcoholic beer, just halting the fermentation 0.5, and not having too much of, like, worthy flavor. So the original gravity for the non-alcoholic is 8 degrees Plato. So when you let it ferment to 0.5, like that's quite similar amount of residue sugar as to, like, a fully fermented beer. So you don't have, like, really that. There's, like, extra maltiness, I would say, but it's still not as worthy as some other brands out there, and also it's not distilled or vacuum distilled or filtered away. So that's it works. It works.
And it still uses a similar grain bill and all of that same.
It's also double decocted. It's basically the approach on the hot side is same. It's same as for all our other beers. It's just the way that in the fermentation it holds, and it doesn't need any maturation because it's 0.5%, doesn't create much of a diacetyl or hydrogen sulfides. So
that's really nice. Cheers. Thank you very much. And I wonder if you could tell us a little bit about Budvar's story and where it all began.
Absolutely. Yeah. So we've been around 128 years this year, or if I'm calculating right. 29, just in the 7th of November. So we started off as a sort of like a sort of resistance of a Czech people in a Budweiser city. So Budweiser is a Germanic name for Budjovice. And back in the day, basically, because it's quite close, so when you look at the map, it's quite close to borders with Austria. And back in the day, when we were part of Austro-Hungarian Empire, the population in the Budweiser city was 50-50, with German-speaking and Czech-speaking. Obviously, Austro-Hungarian Empire, all the institutions were run by German-speaking officials. German was the main language. And then all the cities, or the bigger cities, had a Germanic name. So Budjovice, Budweiser. But yeah, so basically the people of Budjovice or Budweiser, they were tired to be sort of ruled by German-speaking officials. There was a brewery, or there was several breweries in the city center that were run by pro-Germanic people and German-speaking people, and they were like, well, let's start a purely Czech-speaking brewery, and people just chipped the money together, and it was basically crowdfunded, and it became like a corporation or whatever you call. I don't know what's the English name for the model.
Kind of thing.
Yeah, collective, correct. And then time went on and on. And then obviously after the Second World War, there was privatization. Terrible words I'm choosing today. By the Communist Party. And then, that was basically nationalized. And ever since, after the fall of Soviet Union, the Velvet Revolution, many of the breweries were returned to original owners, or sold to big corporations. In many instances, all the big breweries now, except us, in Czech Republic, are owned by any of those, top 4 big players. We are still owned by the government, so by the Czech people. So now the structure is national corporation. And that's pretty much in a nutshell. Just the brewing tradition in the city was since 1265 when the town was founded. So it's got a quite long brewing history in that city, because back in the day the king could grant the permission for brewing rights. So the beer has been always brewed there. It was the municipal breweries that were brewing it throughout the years. That was basically the concept back in the day, before any sort of corporation started or big brewery started and the industrial revolution started. But then also back in the day, the beers were just called by the towns they were from. So even there were several breweries in the specific town, they would still call it the beer from the city. So Budweiser, you've got a Pilsner, comes from Pilsen. Then you got the Austrian breweries or German breweries, Erdinger from Erding, Kronbacher from Kronbach. That's, this dates back in the day. And then obviously our biggest thing, the trademark disputes. Yes, I always need to get to that. So I don't tend to talk much about that, because talking about I would say the other side, it's giving promoting them. But so we've got nothing in common with American Budweiser. I always say compare it side by side. The only thing we've got in common is 308 trademark disputes over the world. So we actually having a team of lawyers in the brewery that keep an eye on all these trademark challenges. And so we are independent. The process that we do, we've got a PGI, Protected Geographic Indication. So all our beer is brewed in Budjovice or Budweiser city. We don't do any contract brewing anywhere in the world. So pretty much everything you taste is brewed in Budweiser. And 100% malted barley, no adjuncts, no hop products, long maturation, all the things that modern breweries don't like to hear, but we still do them. So we remained true to ourselves for past 129 years.
And have the beers that you brewed over that time changed at all or evolved?
This is always the good question, because obviously over the century there was a massive technological advancement. But one interesting thing I found is, like, in that 129 years, we only had 10 brewmasters. And, before the new brewmaster takes over, it's basically it's not an apprentice, but works in the brewery. And we have so many people in the brewery that work in 40 plus years in the brewery. So, I always say, they are the people that drinking the beer, brewing the beer, and they are the guardians of the flavor. So there could have been slight change, maybe at the beginning, because Emil Hansen, isolation of the yeast strains, Linda refrigeration, all these things could have affected that. Also the change in 60s or 70s, we swapped from oak barrels into steel, epoxy steel, and then stainless steel. So everything could have sort of a effect to it, but in the core, I would say the change wasn't as drastic as like any other breweries that were taken over by global brewers, and and the beer before and after totally changed. So
yeah, so that sort of stayed the same. And is that the same with beer styles as well?
Yeah, they stay the same. Obviously, throughout the years there were some innovations on that. So our staple, our original, our 5% lager, that's the flagship lager that we say that's the beer that started it all. So that's our 60-70% of production. I would be lying on the actual numbers.
So it's a majority of what you do is that 5%?
Majority is that. Then we have our 4% wheat chutney, or the everyday lager. Then we do our dark. The dark is actually we launched in 2004. There's a beautiful story behind that. That sort of pays the tribute to all those Bohemian lagers in pre-industrial revolution. Well, it's not sour, but it's not smoky and sour, but it's the drinkable version of it. And then we've got every year on a hop harvest. This is our sort of way of celebrating the Czech hops. We're doing a fresh hop version. We call it the Imperial Lager, which is not a category, but we like to say that Imperial Czech Lager, and that's our 16 degrees Plato, or final ABV 7.5%. Lager that is matures around 7 months. We even push it over to a year, which was beautiful experiment. All used fresh hop that is harvested a day and throw in a kettle on a day, with varieties of Saaz, Agnus, and latest Most, which was actually the development between the Czech growers and Charles Farm in the UK. So it's quite a interesting hop as well to try. So yeah. Then we do some other beers as well, but it's just a fraction of percentage. So, but overall, we do 7-8 beers, all lagers.
Quite a few there, but a lot of them are staple and core ones, aren't they? That are there year after year.
Yeah, it's always about having the core product and consistency.
Makes sense.
Big thing.
And hops are obviously a big part of your Czech lagers. Are you having to change those or adapt slightly? With the changing climate and the way hops perform. Well,
you can hear the growers every September, saying how terrible year it was, and past 2 years were really terrible in Czech Republic. The change is inevitable. I leave this to those clever minds and make sure they keep on doing the work that they've been doing, and they sort of retain that, because it's getting hotter. It's not good for hops. The guys even in the UK, the guys from Charles Farm keep saying that as well. Especially being in Europe and being under the European Union, the genetically modified things are still not approved in European Union, and I think it's just a matter of time before. I don't want this to be pessimistic, so I just leave it right there. Yeah, so
want to keep an eye on there, and
keep an eye on there, and then keep recycling.
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned the 8 beers that Budvar do. Out of those, what's your favourite one?
It's this is the biggest challenge, right? So I always say it's just like music. You don't listen to the same music every day, so it really depends. What's your mood, in which company you are, and what you just done. So for me, the original, that's everyday beer. I always describe it the way that you can have it on your date night, while having a steak, or you can have it with your mates after work, or you can have it with a barbecue on Sunday with your family. So like super versatile. If I'm in the brewery, I go down to cellars and I'm trying our imperial lagers. It's beautiful. You cannot have it too many of them because it goes in the head quite fast. But at the same time, like if mixing our original and our dark, doing the Dřezaný pour. Yeah, I can't just select one. Can't be biased. Just
fair enough. There's got a good lot to choose from there, and like you say, there's different beer for different occasions, aren't there?
Correct.
And what's the idea behind hashtag Year of the Lager?
Oh yeah, so that's our big campaign around the world. So this started with Mikkeller. So we invited Mikkel to come over to a brewery, and we are talking about doing a collaboration, and then he was a massive fan, and we thought like the sort of reach that Mikkeller has around the world, it would be quite great to utilize it with what we do. So we decided to brew with Mikkeller, do the Year of the Lager, which is the ongoing inside joke in the craft beer community. When is going to be the Year of the Lager? Well, it's underway. It's this year, and so we are thinking, the partnership brewing. We don't call it collaborations. We call it partnership brewing. What will be the next stage of this? Because there's so much potential. So the first stage was to brew with Mikkeller, and second stage was basically Budvar taking on that Year of the Lager as a campaign for breweries and home brewers as well around the world to join the campaign and brew Czech style lager. So as a part of that, we created a booklet or handbook of how to brew Czech style lager. It's called Golden Rules. If you go to budweiserbudvar.com/YOTL, then you can sign up for that and download that. And pretty much like our brewers put all the knowledge with the commercial examples of how to brew Czech style lager. And then we just want everyone to share their journey and make this year the Year of the Lager.
Fantastic. I'll pop a link to that in the show notes as well, so people have access to that. Have there been any sort of good brews or particularly interesting brews that you've seen coming out of that?
So we launched it in end of January, I think third week in January. So pretty much we have 400 signups around the world, but I think it's like 130 breweries out of it, like professional breweries. The rest are home brewers. So it's massive. We were surprised ourselves, like how many people actually had to join in. One particular brew I'm quite excited for is the guys at Fierce. I was there 2 weeks ago just to observe how they brewing their Czech style lager. So they're doing Czech style lager, and there were some talks about having it matured over oak chips to sort of like mimic the maturation in a wooden cask. So it will be quite interesting to see if they have it. I think they say they're going to launch it on 18th of April. But that's something I'm quite excited about. And also we actually taking a part in the Mikkeller beer celebration in Copenhagen in May, I think it is. Mm-hmm. 12, 13 May or 11, 12 May. And the breweries that are actually participating in that celebration, we invited them directly. So the theme for the celebration is actually lager. So we bring over our production team, and we going around and speak to the brewers and how they brewed it, what was their journey like, tasting that, giving them instant feedback. So quite excited for that as well. That will be a lot of beers to try.
What do you think UK brewers might be able to learn from Czech lager and Czech brewers?
Patience. Yeah, I'm like pretty much my study background is like British style of brewing. So having the infusion, doing ales, so having overturned on ales in two like less than 3 weeks. many breweries, especially craft breweries in the UK, when they started, they didn't put in their business plan any lager or lagering time or lagering vessels. And now you're seeing the trend that the lager is on the rise. So, and then you're seeing them try to pick up with that. So yeah, having a good plan. And and the approach as well, like many of the British brewing systems, they are not like designed to do decoction. And we came up with the ways where we were actually brewing with Tonbridge, doing something that is called reverse decoction. So you're mashing into kettle and then leaving the decoction portion in the kettle and then pumping it back into MCV. Like it was our brewmaster was doing a joke. There's a Czech school of brewing lager in the UK. But there's a lot of things. But it comes to lagering and the patience with the time, having the capacity, obviously like the residence time and the vessel. It's not beneficial, but to the product. There are many breweries that rush the lager out and you can taste it, and really it affects the sales at the end of the day. Like if your lager is not smashable and you wouldn't have another, why bother doing it? There are lots of great breweries in Europe, and you're seeing that like some of the top craft breweries, they're selling in their tap rooms German lagers, Czech lagers, because they just acknowledge that they don't have the capacity for it. So
Yep, no, makes sense. And do you think it works the other way as well? Do you think Czech brewers are learning stuff from UK brewers?
Absolutely, yes. Like I'm going to mention the Tonbridge collaboration again. Like for us, when we went to see Rob, the head brewer, and we were walking around, and they're using whole leaf hops as we do, so the ethos is quite aligned on that. And then we were brewing with the East Kent Goldings. Our brewers like don't get to experiment as much, but when you send them to different breweries in different countries, they want to try those things. So we did that. We used Morris Otter. That's again like quite. They say it's a heritage variety, but actually it's not a heritage variety. But so. Like bring with that how it actually behaves when you do decoction and all these things. And then we were using Simpson's T50, which is actually caramel malt, crystal malt that we're using in one of the beers in Czech Republic. So I was like, well, we need to put it in there because we know how to work with it. So, but it's quite interesting, and also the things like the different brewing systems, It's going out of the comfort zone and bring on a different system that you've never brewed before. That's challenging, and it's a learning experience. Even with Mikkeller, we went to the proof in Belgium where Mikkel brews all his beers, and it's a contract brewery, but it's really beautiful contract brewery in the middle of fields where everything looks amazing. But then we were sitting there, and be like, well, it's not heating up. What's going on? And then finding out that when they did some refurbishment on the vessel, they swapped the steam inlets, and we were heating up from the sides the whole time, and the mesh wasn't heating up. So it's quite like interesting experience, like learning from that. Because if you're in a brew house, you know your brew house, you're comfortable, challenged, and that's so it's definitely lots of learning experiences for us as well when we do these partnership brewings.
Fantastic, and I think you won a award as well for that collaboration with Thornbridge.
Yes, BRX last week.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. It was a collective team effort from Team Budvar and Team Thornbridge. And, again, like this is a nice pinnacle of that collaboration, because the synergy was there. It was really great to work with the guys from Thornbridge. They are lovely people. They do amazing beers, our ethos and their ethos like lined up together, and it was such a breeze to work with them. As even for us, like it was first international collaboration, like brewing Czech style lager in different country, in different brewery, sharing the expertise, learning the expertise from them. Yeah, really good. And getting the award from SIBA, I was like, wow, that meant a lot for us, and it's nice to sort of like finish that up on this note.
Well, it was for Checkmates, wasn't it?
Correct. Yeah,
I think it definitely helped get more attention in the mainstream as well for Czech lagers in the UK.
It did, and British ingredients, Czech approach. It just worked. I was amazed when I tasted the beer for the first time, and I even like when we launched it in Bakewell, we rolled in our mobile bar. I served it on a side pulpit the Czech way that I gave it to Rob and Adam, the brewmasters, and I just stepped back and I was like, just going to watch them, not going to ask them. And then when Adam tried it, our brewmaster, his eyes lit, and I was like, safe.
Yeah. He's either going to love it or he's going to be slightly insulted by it.
And this is always the risk, right? Especially like if you do like first generation recipe, before you tweak anything together,
you never know how it's going to come out of the kit, and that first time, and what you might need to tweak.
Absolutely. But I must say, like Rob and his team and they're very talented people, and they nail it on the first one. Like obviously, like they were the development through the new batches, but overall, like when I see it now, I think it was listed in Aldi or Lidl for a while, and when I see the can somewhere I go, I just grab the can, just to be like how it tastes like. It's always the QC.
Exactly. Well, it's gone through someone else's supply chain at that point. So,
but overall, like it's been great, and also like it's great to get a positive feedback from the brewing community on this, because like it really sort of a stir the pot when we did that, and when the talks started, and then when you're having brewers from other breweries saying like, hey, I've tried it, man, it's really good. That sort of means a lot as well. So yeah, it's been a great journey.
Fantastic. No, well done on that. And what would you say is the best way to experience Czech lager, full stop? There's no holes barred. What's the best way for anyone to experience it?
In Czech Republic, in your favorite pub, with your friends or your family, with a beer tender who takes a good care of the beer and serves it in the right condition. Shall I be more specific, or this will do? So one of my very favorite places lately is a place called Pult. It's in Prague actually, and Pult means like a counter as a translation. And you walk in there, and there's a big long bar, big counter with really experienced guys who really are passionate about the beer, but also like understand the quality. And for me, one of the best beer places in Prague, where you can get like 6 lagers. They do only lagers, then we have 3 rotational taps. So that would be one place where I always like to go when I'm in Prague. Then obviously the cellars in the Budvar. the pour is not brilliant, but the atmosphere, and then like drinking beer straight from tank. Like everyone that I took to the brewery, like they've been talking about that, and that's if you like, if it's not Budvar sort of place, or a place that doesn't have Budvar. So in Prague, there's a place called Dva Kohouti, translations like 2 roosters, and they brew their own lager, they brew their own ales, and again, like focusing on the pour, a lot of good foam on the top, and that's one of the places that I will go to as well, and when I frequently go when I'm in Prague. So that would be like my top three places.
Fantastic. How about in the UK then, what's the best way to experience Czech lager? So
we literally, this is a great timing, because on Monday we open a tank site in Maidenhead. It's called Tomo, T-O-M-O. And, so they're serving original from a tank, so unfiltered and unpasteurized. So it's like the freshest beer you can get. So really worth going there. I was in charge doing the technical assets there. So getting the Czech bar from Czech Republic. They only have 4 beer lines. So we're like minimizing the amount of lines and, pushing the quality. And they're having the whole Budvar portfolio in the UK there. So they're having the original from tank, so unfiltered, unpasteurized, then the Nefilter, so our 4% unfiltered lager, then the dark lager, and our non-alcoholic lager on alcohol. So for me, that's the best place to enjoy Budvar at. Also, one of our brand ambassadors, Michal, works there as a bar manager. So we put our man into bar to make sure like the quality is spot on. So yeah, so if you ever in Maidenhead to swing by and ask for a Big Mike, you'll see the guy. He's got a fucking 2.5 meter tall guy in leather apron. You can't miss him. Yeah, and ask him for half and half, which is a neat pour.
Nice.
So, yeah, he hates it. So yeah, make sure you order that.
So you send us. That's really good. I saw that actually on social media, and I'll put a link again to that in the show notes. But great. It's also just down the road from me, so I'm definitely going to
there you go.
And try that. And you've got a food menu as well there that goes along with it. All sort of perfect beer, snacks, and beer meals and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, like the food there is incredible. I've had their goulash, and for me, that's one of the best goulashes I've had. And and I'm a sweet tooth person, but I try not to have that because I drink lots of beer, so I just want to add much more sugar into it. But they do really good cheesecake, baked cheesecake with like pistachio sauce. Oh God, that was oh boy.
Fantastic. So that's where to go in the UK then if you want to try that one out.
Yeah, no, that's for me, like it's a stable place. It's not just because they're open, but like, I know that I can turn up there any day in the week when they open and the beer will be spot on. So it's really hard sometimes in the UK to retain this sort of quality.
Will they do the different kind of Czech pours as well? Like your milk and your schnit and all that sort of stuff?
Correct. You can get anything you like there. Excellent. It's like a sweet shop.
So all you need. What's your favourite kind of Czech pour?
Wow. I actually like the mlíko or the milk pour. And simple reason for that is that I gave it two nicknames. So just talking about the mlíko itself. So it's basically like full glass or 90% of the glass is just foam. And you're supposed to drink it in one go. It's super refreshing. So first nickname I gave it to is like a Czech espresso. So when you want to get refreshed, you just get a pint of the foam and just drink it in one go. I do it at events all the time and to challenge people. And second nickname, it's a British man heart attack. So this is something that when we do events in the UK, but even other countries now, it's quite interesting that I always ask the guys behind the bar, like, don't drink pints, drink the mlíko, because essentially it's a half pint in a pint glass, and drink that, and just when you see people passing by the stand and see like, are those guys crazy? They're just drinking foam, and it invites to conversation, and we're like, why are you guys drinking foam? And then you get them to try it, and that wet foam, velvety foam, and and we're like, oh. And they start to think about the foam, man. So British man heart attack, or aka mlíko pour. that's my favorite.
That's a good one. I think we're sort of conditioned to expect that, like 1 centimeter of foam on any beer, really. And also, I think we feel hard done by if we, in quotes, haven't got beer. If we just see foam, but it's a different beer. Drinking it.
I actually, I love this perception of like not having foam, but then it's always like it's like the conversation about sparkle. South and north divided.
Oh yeah.
the northerners, when they travel south, they have a sparkle in their pocket, and they want that thick foam, and that knock out the carbonation of the cask. And again, like I think it's in a good way. Like me being in the UK, but now living 13 years on and off. And seeing like how it has evolved, like over the past 3 years, like Budvar has been putting a lot into activations, talking about the foam. But you see other breweries like catching up on that, and also like the consumers starting to understand that actually the foam is not something that you should fear. And if you still serve what you pay for, plus you having the foam, which foam is a beer, and people start to understand it more as well. It goes in a good direction.
Absolutely, yeah. I think for me, it's just that understand there are these huge range of beers, and they do come with their sort of different ways of drinking, their different kind of intricacies and characteristics, and it's lovely to explore all of that. But
this is the type of education that needs to go into it. Like there are amazing people like Nat Watson, who does all this education for Cicerone, and other guys that do lots of education and tastings, and Johnny and Brad Crabtree channel again do a lot for this. It's just to understand like like the beer is not one style. It's different styles, and it's sort of the glassware around it evolve over centuries, and the best way to enjoy it, the best way to pour it, to get the best experience. So I think it goes a lot into that. And it's just like I always describe it as a coffee. 10, 15 years ago, it's like, who ordered cortado, who ordered latte macchiato, who knew what cappuccino was. And now you got people walk into to cafe and be like, can I have a whatever latte macchiato? And the barista knows, the consumer knows what they get. So I wish one day like the beer gets into this as well, when people will go, it's like, oh, can I have a Czech style lager with the foam on the top, or can I have a Belgian and this tulip glass, serve in like 8 degrees or 9 degrees temperature? Or can I have the cask served at 12 degrees with a sparkle on? Just simple things. But I think it's on a good way to get in there, and that's my secret wish.
Definitely. I think it always comes back to that education piece, doesn't it, about knowing how to do it. How can people sort of find out if they're keen to do it and do the best kind of Czech pour? What should they do? Yeah,
so get a sample tap and get a training done. As Budvar, we're having some links on YouTube of how to pour the beer. Reach out to me. I'm active on Instagram, Facebook, and basically everywhere. So I'm more than happy to swing by or send some videos, send some materials. I like to geek this thing out. And, if someone is enthusiastic and doesn't have to just pour Budvar, but, if you want to get Budvar on, it's even better because the training comes in the package. But yeah, so whoever's keen on that, there's a lot of things online, and also like the guys from Looker, the producer, they are super helpful as well when it comes to their taps.
Fantastic. Do you have any other collaborations coming up, like you've had with Checkmates, or is there anything that you're able to say at this stage?
Sadly, there's nothing for the UK because this partnership brewing was always sort of a destined for the outer markets, where transporting our beer from Budweiser around the world is quite challenging. It's challenging for any brewer. So, and we don't want to do any contract brewing or anything like that. So the partnership brewing that we did with Orbridge, it's now more destined for other markets, US mainly, Australia, and then Asia. So yeah, there are some projects lined up. I can't mention anything at the moment, not to jinx it, but also it's always good to have some secret, right? You never know who's the next big brewery or is gonna be.
Yeah, we'll keep our eyes peeled for all of that.
Keep your eyes peeled, and that definitely will be something. But also, like I would invite, the breweries in the UK that during the year of the lager movement go out and try their beer, because I think it's going to be amazing, having different breweries and we'll take on Czech lager, and not getting involved in that, just be like, you guys do you, and then taste the final product. So I go out and try their beers as well.
Absolutely. Is there a way that people can see if they're like local breweries are taking part, or is it they just have to wait until their brewery promotes it?
Yeah, so until the brewery promotes that, then yeah, I can't talk for other breweries.
Fair enough. Yeah, keep an eye out for a flurry of lagers, hopefully coming out from breweries across the UK as well.
Should be beautiful.
And away from the world of lager for one moment, if I had to press you to choose one other beer style, what would you say might be your favourite beer?
I am coded in like, it's the DNA code. It's Czech style lager, Czech lager. That would be that. But if I wasn't, if you took
available in some dystopian future,
if it wasn't available, oh man, I love ESB. For me, one of the greatest experiences is that when you go in London to Borough Market, you go to Ginger Pig, get your sausage roll, and then you swing by to Rake around the corner, and they've got your ESB on a cask. It makes me hungry and emotional.
To look forward to.
Yeah, so ESB would be for me.
And is there anything else that you've got coming up at Budvar that you're really excited about, and anything that you can share? Yeah, so in the UK, obviously LCBF, London Craft Beer Festival, the biggest, and for me, like, even I would say the best festival for beer festival in the UK. So that's coming up in August. We're doing also National Geographic. That's like the different focus, but if you like beer and travels and authenticity, we will be on the stand with our Ministry of Agriculture and Czech Tourism, because National Brewery, all this thing. So that's next to big things coming up. We got a campaign coming up soon, which I cannot disclose anything about, but it could be interesting. Yeah, that's all I can say. But other things, like even around, like if you got for listeners outside the UK, we're going to be in a Beer Planet. Me and our brewmaster, we go into CBC in Las Vegas, and we Gothenburg. There is a lot planned, and we're always working on something interesting. So yeah, keep your eye peeled. If you're based in the UK, Instagram Budvar UK.
to follow, where you find most of the information, what's going on, and lots of beer content that makes you thirsty. And then for other markets, we've got a Budvar Global. So follow that, and that's for all other markets than UK. So pretty much that. Or follow me on Instagram, Radim Zvanovec. If you put just Radim, I'll always pop up first. I don't know why, but lots of beer content, lots of homebrew content, and lots of Budvar content as well. So reach out there if any questions regards to side pull tabs and Czech pours or things, Czech lager, Czech biokarche, tips for Prague. That's the thing that I always got to ask most. I'm going to Prague, where shall I go? I've got a list of things that I'm firing away. Because I was always tired like writing in the so that's the free channels to sort of follow and where to get the information.
Fantastic. You're a busy man, but it's held together by Czech lager by the sound of
it. Always busy, always on the road.
Excellent. Well, I want to just say a huge thank you for joining us. It's been fascinating finding out all about this, about your role and everything about Czech lager. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much for having me.
Brilliant. Cheers.
Cheers.
So thank you very much for listening, and I hope you can join me on the next one. And this is the part where I ask for your help. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe to the podcast, leave a review or rating, or share it with others. This really helps us out and helps other people find the podcast, particularly as we're starting out. And you can follow us on social media. Search for We Are Beer People, all one word. You can also email us at wearebeerpeoplepod@gmail.com. Let us know what you think. Share your thoughts, and if you have any recommendations for beer people you'd like to hear from. And until next time, don't forget, you, me, us, them, we are all beer people.